Hey everybody out there on YouTube land, this is Rick Carter from YouTube Media, YouTube Media, YouTube Media, oh god, broke that up already. But, yeah, obviously this is from the Christchurch shooting, response or whatnot, which is kind of sad what happened. Obviously I, do not condone violence. I don't believe, that this should have happened in the first place, but in the same way, I'm sick of seeing when, a jihadi, kills or runs over or bombs a place and kills a bunch of other people too. It's, these are the extremes from both sides of this culture war that's been going on. And there's a culture war on many different aspects of things. It's not just so much as like racial. It's also from different there's so many different aspects of it. It's in entertainment. It's in media. It's in you name it. And the thing about this whole UN agenda, and a lot of people kind of criticize me by saying, "Oh, that's bullshit. You're just talking about too much of a big picture and trying to connect things together or whatnot." But no, there is an actual, an agenda that the UN has been pushing for quite some time. Whether or not it's the elimination of creating national laws like what the EU has done to most of Europe. And also here in Canada, we've adapted onto a lot of stuff that's been sponsored by the Tides Foundations and UN agendas and stuff like that. So it's at the point where we have a ridiculous amount of regulation. That's how it's kind of hit us over here. And they ultimately want to put us into a ultra... It's funny how they it's okay nationalism when it comes to the UN's version of nationalism, which is more like creating like the North American Union. Oh yeah, God forbid you say anything bad about the North American Union, but you say that a country should be able to make its own laws, and all of a sudden you get branded a Nazi. So that's kind of interesting. But anyways, I actually watched the video, and the guy was a total coward. There's no honorable way to go around about doing a mass murder anyways, unless you're in like a war pretty much, and even then that's kind of like tricky, because who knows who the people behind who started the war in the first place, or the reasons why you're fighting for and all that crap, right? So it's kind of messed up. I actually did read his manifesto, and I the guy's playing the media like a fiddle. Because everything he wanted to do, and he said stupid stuff like saying, "Oh, Candace Owens is way too more violent than he is," and whatnot. Like, the guy has pretty much, he finds like like he knows how to use the 8chan culture to like he even put like the with the sergeant guy, the SEAL team dude. It's like a meme that you see all the time about like people just putting in there saying that how well of a marksman they are and not to mess with them and all that jazz. Just stupid stuff like that he put in there just to kind of mess with people. But I think it's kind of interesting because the guy actually seriously, like, his motivations, it didn't really seem like it was made up, like he was being fake about those, because obviously if you're going to go and kill a bunch of people or maybe even die yourself, like when he was going out and doing with his plan or whatnot, and another thing too is that they can't really say that this is temporary insanity, because this looks like this guy has planned it out for years. And another thing too, which I know I'm kind of going a little off topic here from what I was going to say before, but in New Zealand and in Australia, I'm believe, like I've been told over many different times and looked into it, especially Australia, but they have like really harsh laws on rifles down there. How is this guy able to get like illegal mags and like, it just goes to show you the argument right there that the gun control debate does not work, because I believe that that guy who got shot, like the first two people guarding the door for the mosque, should have had a sidearm at least, at the very least, to defend themselves and their congregation. I believe that for any kind of, especially religious institutions nowadays, because of the polarization of it. There's people that are out there that'll kill you for what you believe. I believe that every church, every mosque, every, what do they call it with the Jewish, anyways, but all the different religions out there should have, it might be a little bit of a tough sell to get the Buddhists to carry a gun, sidearm, but, I do believe that people should have the right to protect themselves in that regard, because if even if one of those people in that, like, because the way that he shot those people as they were praying, and you know, it looked like there was still some people trying to huddle into it, like the bodies or whatnot, to try to survive, but he had none of it. He obviously went in there with the intention and the ammunition to waste everyone. You know, I mean, there was nobody there. There was one guy that went. If anyone knows what I'm talking about, that tried to get the gun out of him, but you know, he was shot down, and that's unfortunate. You know, it's really sad that happened, and you know, the guy was he obviously had the plan, like he knew what he was doing. He even did the kind of like tactic of putting magazines, loaded magazines, on the ground for where he was going, so that when he was done with his clip, he could retreat back to a safe spot, take the ammo, reload, and then go back in. Like, the guy was going in and out, and it looked like he had some sort of training or some sort of, like, he knew what he was doing, because he was minimizing the amount of time that he was actually exposed in case anyone did have a weapon to fight back. And yeah, it was crazy. He even had a strobe light, I noticed, on the thing to, I guess when you think about it, it kind of disorients the people that are you know, that are getting shot at or whatnot. But it's just so horrible what he did. And but the thing is that when you look into the manifesto thing that he was writing, like, there was a lot of like trolling and stuff like that. So I definitely think that the whole thing in its totality should definitely be looked at with a grain of salt to find out whether or not this person is actually what he's saying. Because at certain times he says he's right wing, left wing. He's like, yeah, sure, why not? You know, he obviously didn't know what he was talking about for a lot of things. Saying that Candace Owens is more extreme than him. Like, Candace Owens has never physically assaulted anyone whatsoever, and she's always called for, you know, nonviolence when it comes to it. I think that came down to him trying to start a race war, and Alex Jones is right. This does kind of have the kind of eco-fascist kind of, you know, I mean, obviously he wants white people in New Zealand to stay white people in New Zealand, but I mean, like, it's not as if like they were like welcomed by the Maori in the first place. But I mean, that's a whole nother ball game there. But I mean, a lot of the, like, it was weird how he was saying that the country that he looks up to the most is like China. And like, I don't know if people think that that's a capitalist system anymore, because it is definitely not. It's like a weird amalgamation of like authoritarianism and communism and totalitarianism, and pretty much just like a social credit score where you get ostracized for just the most stupidest things. It's just one country I would never want to live in, that's for sure. And yeah, I think it's kind of messed up how the media is running with this and blaming it on Trump and blaming it on conservatives, when the guy in his manifesto said that he didn't have any conservative, like, he hates conservatism because it was like tool of the corporatocracy and all that jazz. So, you know, I mean, I don't really think you can blame this on anyone, to be honest with you. Like, you blame it on the guy that freaking killed all those people. It's like when they have those violent jihadi attacks and stuff. Like, I'm more pissed off at the fact that there's, you know, like, there's an open ideology that teaches people they can lie to other religions and, like, treat women like shit, treat people who are different from them like shit, pretty much. And, you know, actually have, like, Sharia law where, you know, there's a lot of really messed up stuff that goes on with that. Everything from female genital mutilation to, you know, like, not covering up in public, you know, to the point where if you show too much ankle, you know, you're going to get the Sharia police on you or whatnot. It's stupid stuff like that. Or beheading for not going out for, you know, trying to protest and say that they don't need to go out without a male accompaniment. You know, it's ridiculous. And, anyways, I mean, I think a lot of people that know what I say on, like, this channel, who have actually taken time to watch it, know how I kind of feel about fundamental extremism on any kind of side or whatnot, and that I believe that it should be separate from, you know, church and state, pretty much, regardless of religion. So, but I mean, it's definitely you have to look at why he was saying that, like, he was going out to carry these attacks out. And the media's been looking for this guy, this Christchurch guy, some sort of mass shooting thing, Dylan Roof thing, that they can blame it on white people, for years now, ever since the last Dylan Roof thing, because they need to have this, like, horrible, rise of white nationalism and stuff like that. And it's, like, kind of bullshit, because there's a lot of minorities that did not vote for Clinton, and a lot of voters that, were directly, especially Latino people who have gone through the cartels, who see how they operate. When they get to America, they don't want those people in their neighborhood. They don't want MS-13, killing their kids and, like, raping their daughters and shit like that. And, it's a sad thing. It actually is on a predominant thing. It's a serious issue in the States when they have MS-13 gang members, because it's such a bad gang that their whole, like, it's like rape, control, kill is like their main motto. I mean, that's not exactly someone you can really, assimilate into your culture. That's kind of like, without kind of like ruining your culture completely. And so there's definitely a racial and cultural component to these things. And, but the thing is, I mean, historically, when you bring a foreign population into a native population, historically, whether or not you're going to look at colonization or whatnot, it does not work out too well for that native population, or whatever population isn't able to, like, if the invading occupation force isn't able to stay and keep their might and change things so that there's an acceptance of the culture. And that's why immigration, to me, is a very serious issue. It shouldn't be this left or right issue. The fact that we've let governments, and I've said this many times before in different videos, the fact that we've let governments turn this into a left-right issue is a very dangerous precedent. Because when you bring in a bunch of people into a population, and the thing is, like New Zealand, where this happened, like, from what I heard, they're very open and multicultural, I mean, just like Canada, just like Australia for the most part. And, there really isn't that much of you get the occasional nutter, religious nutters on both sides or all sides of every kind of dispute, where people take things and go completely off the deep end. And that's where we kind of need to stop, and say, okay, well, we need to stop these people from happening. Like, any kind of thing that we can do to stop this kind of, like, because it is getting to a point where, even if it doesn't turn into a race war, there's the possibility of a civil war in the States and different countries that's going on right now. The European Union, that whole UN agenda is kind of falling apart for a lot of degree. Like, a lot of France is getting more violent every weekend, every day pretty much. And, it's just a matter of time before there is going to be some sort of popular uprising. And a lot of people saw that with Trump and stuff. And the media could have easily just said, okay, well, we lost. We overestimated the polls. Like, we screwed up. Give us another chance. And then criticize Trump on what he does wrong. And then, give him a benefit of the doubt when he does something good. But the only time the mainstream media will say that Trump has done, or any kind of nationalist or politician that wants laws to be made within their own country. Like, for me, I believe in Canadian nationalism, but I don't believe that we should just, bring in just white people. And, like, I have no problem bringing in people from all over like, my grandparents came over here from England originally. So, I mean, that's totally fine. I've got no problem with immigration, as long as it's done legally and it's done intelligently. Like, if you bring in a bunch of people, like we're trying to do with this UN migrant compact, which is just ridiculous. Like, what, we got like 35, 40 million population here in Canada. I know they just try to say it's like 30 mil, but I remember hearing that like a long time ago. And our census is kind of a joke here, so I wouldn't be surprised if we have like 50 mil, 60 mil probably at this point. But I mean, it's still like, if we're bringing in, they want to bring in like 1 million more refugees. And I mean, these are people that have not paid into the system at all. These are people that have not paid into any kind of Canadian healthcare, or, 60% of them end up still being on welfare 2 years into it. They take a huge resource of translators and schools, medicine, you name it, doctors, because when these people come in, they're not put on a waiting list. They're given the exact access to the same thing that most Canadians are to a certain degree. And to me, that just kind of seems really kind of messed up, because you're going to put more weight onto the system. Like, I used to be from, an NDP supporter, and I knew back then just like how bad the waiting lists were. There's like almost, I think there's over like 750,000 families that are on like the waiting list to get doctors, to get subsidized housing. Like, we are in a crisis as it is right now, with either underfunding or just like, if you're looking at from the side of a liberal lefty kind of NDPer, then you're looking at the fact that, oh, well, we don't have a lot of this money for these services, and we need more money for these services so we can have a better healthcare system, which is what they believe. But, people on the right, or people who are more libertarian, like, which is the kind of the way that I've kind of came onto these beliefs, is that, we have such a huge bureaucracy, and the money that we are giving to this huge money monster is not helping the people as it is right now. And maybe those people who are running the administrative staff should have their $100,000 or $120,000, paychecks cut significantly, so that they're actually providing a service for the people, and that more of that money is actually going into helping the people, as opposed to putting quota systems, which is what our healthcare system does here in Ontario, up here in Canada. So I would like to see a more libertarian and also a private and public option, because a public option gives you absolutely no choice. If you're under a complete public system, for the most part, everything that you're getting is, you have no way of legal defense if any of that stuff goes wrong, or if any of that stuff is whether it's a doctor, whether or not it's the procedure, whether or not there's a lot of different things that may go wrong with the healthcare that you're dealing with. Well, there's really no way that you can actually get compensation, that you can actually get your voice heard here in Canada. It's pretty much, it's our public option. Everyone pays for it. So technically it's free. So shut your fucking mouth. That's how it is. I've seen it many times. I went on a waiting list for 2.5 years to see a back specialist, only to get told that I'm shit out of luck, that he doesn't want to operate because I'm a hemophiliac, or even if I lost a ridiculous amount of weight, he doesn't want to risk the fact that I'm a hemophiliac, that a little bit of blood could get into my spine and go sepsis and turn me paraplegic, which would be a lot worse, even though I'm like having to lay on my stomach for most of the day, because like when I do go out and I do stuff with like People's Party of Canada, we had a meeting yesterday, so that's good. Hopefully gonna get some phone calls and start getting that stuff on a regular basis, so at least I'll be working that way. And hey, for people out there that are listening to this, just get involved into politics, get involved in your local riding for whatever political party you believe in, because it's a good way of doing it, and at least you can say that you did something. You tried. When things get really bad down. I mean, I'm not so much as the person. I'm not an optimist. I'm, a realist when it comes down to it. I know what's going to happen. For the most part, the difference between going for different types of parties that, say that they're for one things and are completely hypocritical, or, it's the less you go away from the mainstream, the more you go into kind of that open waters kind of territory where, you might, you're probably not going to be getting the same talking points is what a lot of people are doing for like the conservative or the left and stuff like that. You might not hit those same talking points, but you'll definitely think of things in a different kind of sort of way. I noticed, but I mean, it comes down to whether or not you're left or right looking at things. I think it's always good to kind of stay to the center, just because you go too far, socialist, communist, or if you go too far, kind of, alt-right, far-right, neo-Nazi kind of thing. But the thing about the neo-Nazis is that they're really, the only difference between communism and Nazism is really just the control of the state power over industry. The communists, they took it right away, and that didn't work out well. I mean, when Mao tried to took over, he, got rid of any, and it wasn't so much as like, there was no top 0.0 some odd percent. No, the thing with the communists is that they go after anyone who owns property. So that's like regular entrepreneurial business owners, like even farmers and stuff, they were getting, kicked off or killed or, exiled to, parts of the country or whatnot. If they were lucky, it was a very bad operation. And what people did is they had no idea of what they were doing. They made these little furnaces that they were told to build, and then they melted all the iron down, thinking that they could become an industrial, like steel superpower, like a lot of other countries were at that time, because that was pretty much how you industrialized. And thing about that though is that the quality of the iron was so low, and they practically just they took all of their like metal tools and stuff like that, any kind of metal that they could find that they could have used for tools for stuff that they were even doing before, just to feed themselves, and they turned it into like these like giant metal bars that would break and were completely useless because of they had no idea of the proper smelting and what they needed to do for the materials to get a proper and consistent yield when it comes to steel milling or any of that stuff. And so sure enough, they ended up starving. That was one of the reasons why, is they didn't have like the proper tools. And another one is that they kept giving their food away in like these little quota things to say how much money, how much resources they've contributed to the state for. And the sad thing was, a lot of the, especially people in China, they thought they were doing something great. They were smiling. They were throwing all their food on top of the hay bales, and all their food on top of the wagons to get thrown out, to get sold on international markets and stuff like that. And they got absolutely nothing in return. Like they're wondering why they're starving. They're like, hey, wait, how come this food isn't coming back to us? We're the worker. We're the ones that work so hard for this food. And sure enough, it all goes to somewhere else, sold for pennies on the dollar, or gets thrown out because it's completely crap quality. So that's pretty much the kind of whole problem with the communists, is that they want control of everything now. And I mean, when you look at how Hitler kind of, obviously the authoritarianism is still there. That's the one thing a communists and fascists share, is the authoritarian streak. Now, for me, for example, in a libertarian government or society, the only time that you should ever really be incarcerated or imprisoned or is if you decide to break the NAP, the non-aggression principle, which is, don't slander, don't steal, don't lie, don't try to do force against, another person, because they've got just as much rights as you are. And, to be able to force your will on someone else is completely immoral and wrong. Or to steal from them and not have them have any of that representation is wrong and also morally wrong and reprehensible. So I totally stand on that too. And I like to see kind of that stuff. But you know how the thing is, when you have power, you need authority. Without authority, you can't keep that power in check. You can't do what you want. You can't expand that territory. You can't, take down a certain rival or whatnot, unless you use it in a way where everyone else agrees or sees their arguments for what it is, or you're never going to have a complete 100 agreement on anything. But I do believe the libertarian model is a lot better than what we have. It's crazy how people are in jail for nonviolent crimes and stuff like that, and definitely see a lot of things as stuff that can be worked out through reaching out to people, because we got this whole thing where like we just label them, we give them a whole bunch of drugs, and they act out every now and then because they're on drugs and they're in a shitty fucking hopeless situation, and we wonder why they freak out on drugs. It's like it's kind of a given when you don't improve a person's, and they have like that kind of whole fundamental breakdown of what their point in life is and what they're meant to strive to ultimately attain. But this guy obviously was just, there to kill as many people as he could. And It was crazy. He was even at one point shooting through his, like, in the inside of his car when he drove up to, I guess, another either area where it had like another, I don't know. The one I saw from Live Leak was only about 16 minutes long, but the sad thing is that the media, before the bodies are even cold, have jumped on this and turned it into this is a Trump supporter, or this is a Brexit supporter. Like they did it in such a way where it's like they make a big deal out of it. But hey, where's the media's call for a serious conversation about Islam every time some jihadist goes and blows and kills a bunch of people up? It's the fact that they're focusing so much on this is America, even though it happened in freaking New Zealand by a guy who loves China and declares himself an eco-fascist. I mean, the guy even took climate change as a serious fucking issue in his manifesto thing. And if you talk to anybody on the right, most people on the right believe that the climate change as it is right now is more of a political issue as more of instead of a scientific issue. And it's sad that we're not able to actually get to the science, because there's been so many different cases where the established scientific authority has been known to completely do some underhanded, corrupt, shady things by manipulating the data sets. Like if you look at the difference between the first and the third IPCC assessment on climate, there's a huge difference in the first one to the third one, mostly because the first two IPCC reports that they'd had on climate change were kind of done in an era where they were thinking more of either global cooling would have been more of a predominant problem, or at the same time where there was an environmentalist kind of movement and they kind of needed to kind of figure out something else that, we can't just keep, no one cares that we're that we're trying to save the whales and everything like that. Now we have to make some sort of climate change thing or hocus pocus thing. So it just really kind of served their own political interest in the whole scaring of things, showing the polar bears that can't swim in the middle of the Arctic, they're sitting there on a tiny little ice cube and they're just looking at the cameraman with a little sad tear in their eyes, drinking their Coca-Cola. But that's not what happens. It's had like an explosion of the polar bear population since the 50s. And there's also been a lot of different, they've actually been so numerous that they've been, they've been coming down from a lot of the Arctic areas. Like they've been breeding with bears and stuff. We're getting but then people, they'll take stuff like that and they won't look at, okay, is it because there's too many of these polar bears and they're coming down because they're territorial and there's like food and stuff like that they're trying to get to, and they're moving down more because of like everything from cities, like we get more populations in places even in rural remote areas where they have places where they dump their garbage and it attracts predators and changes the behavior of the wildlife there. And that's obviously something that we've attributed. That's something hands down. But the left doesn't see it that way. They see it as, oh no, there's not enough bears and they're coming down here because it's getting warmer now in like the southern area of the Arctic. But it's either that argument or it's either the fact that there's like a shit ton of bears out there and that they are just spreading out and intermingling with other bears that aren't in the Arctic tundra area. And, that's going that way kind of thing, So it's really kind of messed up because we will never actually, you don't get the real truth of what's going on, and the media, will only go for some certain narratives. And this is what I don't understand about people. Like does anybody who's watching this, who's a normal human being, for example, who, doesn't really give a shit about all the mainstream media bullcrap. Now, when you hear them get outraged, do you even care anymore? Because I'm at the point now where I really don't. It's like, tonight, these Covington kids on CBC and how they bullied this poor Native American And it's like, oh god, like especially when you know the real story behind it, you're just like, really, really, media, is this how you're gonna play things again? Just gonna keep taking your stupid little fucking oppression Olympics and checklists of your talking points off on who's good and who's bad, and you get to sit up there and play that you're the moral arbiters of everything good and what's and that you actually care about the average person in Canada, which is a total joke. They don't. And sadly, this whole, the way the media has been portraying it is exactly how the guy said it would play out in his manifest. So, I mean, the media says that they give a shit about the victims, but yet they glorify the fucking shooter and the guy that that murdered all these people. Then they fucking not only take that status of this crazy motherfucker that killed a bunch of people, and then apply it to everyone else they don't fucking agree with. And then call them, because you said a mean tweet to someone or a feminist way back in the day in 2010 or whatnot, then you are the one that started this Christchurch shooting. It's like total bullshit. Especially when you see how they don't apply it for, radical Islam. It's like, there's almost every single day there's like 50 people in the Middle East that are getting bombed or shot or killed, or schools that are being blown up or targeted, and even Africa, for Christ's sakes. It's not just in the Middle East. There's all kinds of like horrible shit that's been done out where people have been killed in mass groups. And man, I don't agree with that shit at all either. I don't want to fucking see a bunch of Muslims dead. I don't want to see a bunch of fucking white people dead. I don't want to see any kind of people, getting killed over fucking religious bullshit, because it makes no fucking sense to me. It's just overall, it's like, oh, my sky wizard is better than your sky wizard. I mean, hey, some people, like they really believe it, and hey, more power to them. I mean, like, I'm kind of agnostic. I'm kind of wondering if there's a big daddy G out there. Wonder what's going on in the whole great plan and scheme of things. But at the same time, I keep an open mind. I mean, it's good to do that. But it's crazy to see that this whole thing has been. It's a polarization that's getting. Tim Pool was kind of right when he's talking about Twitter. You get all these tech companies that obviously have a liberal slanting bias, and so by removing right wing or even conservative or even the neo-Nazis, they should have a platform. I believe that we shouldn't, unless they're calling it incitement and to hatred and stuff like that, or violence or whatnot, then they should have a platform out there. They should be able to spew their hate, and people should be able to watch it and be like, holy crap, that's what those freaking crazy assholes believe? Well, fuck them. I mean, but when it turns to violence, then, and it comes to censorship, then you're making it so that people don't have like, if you look in the manifesto of the Christchurch shooter, he was actually talking about some legitimate issues and concerns about the fact that there was a replacement in population, how like certain countries have been bringing in like way too many Muslims that kind of took over. I mean, like, if you look at France right now, France is just like a fucking pigsty pretty much, and it's not just from the people that are protesting. They're the people that had all these Muslims get brought, and people from sub-African nations or whatnot, or sub-Sahara, I don't know, like different African nations, and it would just get to the point where it taxed the social welfare state in France and made it so that they didn't have any room. There were people sleeping on the roads pretty much, and then it's like, how do you get all these people, clear them up, move them over to another area? It's going to cost resources and stuff like that. Like, they really didn't think that through, and there's a smart way of bringing in. I mean, like, why is it now? Because the UN, as like when Peter Sutherland dies, all right, the guy who's talking about how he wants to flood first and second world nations, mostly first world though, predominantly more Western culture kind of Caucasian majority nations, to bring in a whole bunch of Muslims that have a completely different religion, kind of culture, and in such a way, like the mass migration compact or whatnot. That's just crazy. The migrant compact, they're gonna make it so that anybody from a third world country can come to a first world country, and we have to pay for it. We have to do everything we can to accommodate them, which is ridiculous. You can't go to a third world nation and be like, all right, well, we're going to put democracy in here. And I know the U.S. has tried to say that they've done it a bunch of times before. And obviously the UN's like whole like reason for existing is supposed to be to prevent war. All they do is perpetuate it and make it so that there's certain people that are making money off of it and certain people that are suffering from it. And that's the ultimate truth. This is a mainstream, whole push of trying to make every white person, who believes in gun ownership out to be, the next school shooter or the next, mosque shooter or some shit like that, is bullshit. But the sad thing is that when the mainstream media focuses so much on the killers and focuses so much on blaming other people who don't agree with them, then they kind of, in a way, make those crazy people feel disenfranchised, being like, well, what, nothing what I do is gonna matter, because apparently now, because I was born with a penis and I'm white, this is probably what they're thinking of some of these people, then automatically, they're like fucking like walking the planet as like Satan incarnate, and disenfranchised by not having, proper, pretty much kind of like representation. Like when you go to the schools and stuff like that and you're told, oh no, you have to shut up because you can't believe in your culture, you can't believe in your nation. And it's just been like this huge kind of wearing down of this moral fucking arbiters, like the lefty like douchebags that think that, everything that they do or that you do has to be for some sort of moral high ground or whatnot. But these are the same people that believe in killing children post-birth in the States, in certain, states now. And I mean, hey, I'm pro-choice, but I'm kind of even having to think like, holy shit, I gotta rethink my stance when I see what the States is pulling with the Democrats and stuff. They're legalizing infanticide pretty much. Oh, I don't like the way that baby looks. Oh, yeah, we're going to have to kill it because I just don't want to go through that effort, Aw. Can I have a designer baby? Can you put Louis Vuitton on the side of it? It's like, for fuck's sakes, man. People are so vain. And, people have their own like, views on certain stuff like that. But, it's getting to a point where it's so polarizing that I do believe that we are maybe about 5-10 years either seeing it in the States or Europe first. Canada's too complacent. I love this country, but we're too pussified. Most people only give a shit about their hockey. Like, yeah, they'll get pissed off, but like they got pissed off at Harper when, yeah, he was corrupt and he did some horrible things, but then they put in a guy who was pretty much just a drama teacher that had no accountability, no experience, can't even answer a simple fucking question, and now we're supposed to, like, just, even though they got rid of Harper and they got some other guy who cares more about what the right and left think demographics-wise for his party's platform than he does about actual conservatism or, making sure that we're not... I mean, because I can't even find, aside from the People's Party of Canada, like, that's the only party in Canada that actually wants to, like, balance or tackle on this, like, ridiculous amount of debt that we're accumulating. They're the only party, really, in the main... Well, there's the Libertarians, too. I'll give them that, but they're kind of, like, fifth place at this point compared to People's Party of Canada, which looks like it's a rising fourth place contender, depending whether or not you include the Quebec Federalist Party, but not really anyone in the English-speaking Canada does, so... sorry about that, Quebec. I love you. But, yeah, it's just kind of how the way their politics work down here. But, yeah. Anyways, I'm going to kind of recap here. The guy was a coward. Obviously, I don't condone violence. I don't want people to be killing, people they don't fucking agree with. That's not the way we go about doing things as a civilization. I mean, you got to give civilization credit because there's a lot of things that we've done where, we could be at each other's throats. It could be, law of the jungle or tribalism or whatnot. But, the thing about civilization is that there's something about the human component that, despite all the bullshit, all the fucking insanity, and all the power-grubbing assholes out there, that there is a need, a desire for the human condition to want to kind of build communities, to build civilization, to not just go after each other for whatever reason. But I mean, you can look at the historical accounts of things. There's been many times where we've screwed up and we've done completely opposite of what we're supposed to do, to try to build that positive kind of, growing civilization sort of thing, with all of its wonderful achievements and, like extending life through, medical care and also through the, like the better living conditions where we don't have to worry about dying from our water being contaminated for the most part, or food being contaminated for the most part, stuff like that. Even though in some sort of ways it is kind of a lot more unhealthier than what we used to put up with back in the day. But anyways, what that guy did was obviously very cowardly, and but I mean, on the same time, you have to look at the fact that this kind of cultural warfare is being waged on many different sides, and I mean, like, if anybody should be held accountable, it's well, for one, first off, before anything gets blamed on anyone, it's the person, the individual that decides to go out and kill as many people as they want, for whatever specific agenda they want to achieve. And then the second would definitely be put on, kind of like, how do we report? How do we like show this to the world? And I mean, like, the guy live streamed everything on Facebook, and like, it took them about, like 16, 19 minutes or something like that before they caught on and turned off the stream and stuff. But it's like, how do you stop people from doing that? And when they do that, they gain notoriety. I mean, there's going to be people that are either going to like what this fucking maniac's had to say, or are going to hate what he has to say and don't read it, and just go on whatever they're told about the guy's beliefs and stuff like that. And then there's also going to be people that, that know that some of the stuff in there is not true, but they're going to use it anyways to fulfill their own agenda. And when you do that, when you're a news organization, and like, there is, like, that's what I love about the mainstream. They always talk about how responsible they are, and how they're like these they're the moral arbiters, they're the fifth estate, like, they're the ones that know what's going on, and they're so objective, and they have all these principles and journalist standards and ethics, which they never follow. Because as soon as some crazy asshole, tries to, fucking kill a bunch of people and start his own little race war thing or whatnot, then it turns into a fucking shit show, and then the media promotes it, and they get... I wouldn't even heard about this guy if we didn't have such a deep media collusion between all of Western civilization when it comes to the mainstream media outlets. Obviously the alternative media is talking about this now because of just how big the mainstream media has made this into a story. Yet I don't remember any of the times when there was like the Egypt, when they had that one bombing that killed almost like 40, came close to killing about 50 people. There was no, we need to talk about Islam, or we need to have a conversation about, we need to have a conversation about that, what's his face? The Nation of Islam, the guy, they say he's pretty much crazy as it is and just leave it as that. But you don't see people that say, oh, well, because this one person from any other religion, but as soon as a white male does it, then all of a sudden it's like every white male has this like psychic connection thing deep in the back part of their brain where they all like, yeah, let's go kill us some people. Let's go kill us some people that aren't the same skin color as us. That makes no freaking sense whatsoever. That's so stupid. It's such a ridiculous, logical way of thinking that is just not logical at all. It's like, it's completely messed up. I guess illogical would be the proper word to describe it, but that's crazy. It really is. I mean, And I would never say that we should, like, or endorse that we should, like, if one crazy person, even in a mosque or whatnot, goes crazy and kills a bunch of people, or, like, or outside of, for whatever religion. The thing is, we have to look at, okay, who's encouraging that belief that it's okay to go out and kill people that you don't agree with, and go after those people. If it's a hate preacher, on the left or the right or whatever religion, then you should definitely realize that what they're trying to get you to do, and when it's ultimately gonna make things worse. You see, I don't want a fucking civil war to happen in any of the main countries that it looks like they may be heading that way. Like, that's just horrible. And there's been a couple times where I've been like, well, if shit goes down, I'm going down south to back up the Patriots. But but that's kind of more of rhetoric than anything. It's just more of a emotional argument kind of thing from that aspect of things. But we should definitely call out, authoritarian douchebags who are completely megalomaniacal and think that they're the saviors of humanity kind of thing like that. And, like, this is stuff that needs to be, the battlefield shouldn't be the real world. The battlefield should be an intellectual one, where we decide which ideas work and which ideas don't, which is what we've always done before intellectually. It's just the last, like, 15, 20 some odd years, it's turned into this whole, Orwellian, like, masturbatory love fest. It's almost like a lot of people do kind of put it down to 9/11, and I think that may be the case. Maybe from ever since 9/11, it was that whole argument of safety over, freedom, or the illusion of safety over freedom, which is practically became, not just in the States, but in Canada, all over the world. It's a global phenomenon of, you need to be censored because your ideas might cause someone to go batshit crazy. So instead of blaming the individual for the causes and the actions that they take, they are blaming anybody who believes in a certain ideology, even if they have varying levels of agreeingness or policies that they would go about changing or implementing. So it's like they're just throwing everyone under, throwing the baby out with the bathwater for a lot of the arguments and stuff. Because there's, like the guy said in his manifesto that he went to France and he saw how just bad it was with like how a once, amazing culture has really, like, they're looting down in this, they're burning shit. They're fucking, there's a lot. And I'm not saying that. That's actually like the backlash from the people that had to get their gas prices raised, their insurance raises, and all this, like, just crap that's happened because they see a huge group of people come in. They know that the state is already bad enough as it is and has no way of being able to pay for it. And what? They're all supposed to be, fucking Dylan Roof, card-carrying members of the fucking Nazi party of eliminating anyone that doesn't have the same color as them now? That makes absolutely no sense. That's a very stupid way of going about things. And I definitely believe that we should go out, not go after so much, but people who are inciting violence definitely need to be arrested. But for people that are just trying to say, hey, look at our position here. We've had our representation cut drastically by big government or by UN agenda. And when you say stuff like that, then now it's being purported by the mainstream media that, because you don't like the mainstream media, you don't like the official narrative, then you're some sort of right-wing, goose-stepping, genocidal maniac, which is not the truth whatsoever. It comes down to, political argument and figuring things out that way. And also getting people awake in the culture, because a lot of people are just either at the point now where they just don't care about it and throwing the towel in, or there's people that are like, that are getting into this. And the sad thing is, the people that are getting into this on emotion are the ones that are more tendent, to do things kind of, like we've seen with the more extreme cases of things. And I don't support that whatsoever, but I see why it's happening, and that's a sad thing. It's not as if like, and there was a bit of a difference too when you're looking at like a lot of these right winger, like if you can call them right wingers or whatnot, or eco-fascists, I guess. In this, and that's the thing. The guy has the same ideology as the people that want to that want to kill everyone because there's too much population. And if you look into the actual like into the agenda 2030 now, or like the agenda 21, the Rio summit, a lot of that stuff, like to be able to implement it perfectly would involve a lot of suffering for people, in a way where it does kind of control the population. It controls carbon. It controls, like you are a carbon. We're all carbon-based entities. Like how deep down the rabbit hole they want to go to. You got Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. She was going over talking about how we shouldn't, like, should we even have kids because of how this climate change thing is going to kill everyone in 12 years. God forbid, I don't want to have a baby now only for it to die when it's 12 years old and everyone to see Paris. And we need to use less. We can't go on airplanes, even though Alexandria Cortez loves to go on the airplanes. They go and they have their nice little planes and they fly. Boom, boom. Yes, I'm flying in the air. Anyways, but you no fly. No, you no fly. That's pretty much what it comes down to. They're fucking hypocrites in every way, shape, or form of pretty much every Democrat lefty policy now is, we get to do things you don't. We can decide my body, my choice, except for if you don't want vaccines injected into you, or fucking GMOs and shit like that are put into the food supply and stuff like that. God forbid you say no, that you want to, have parental consent laws in the same laws that were put in from like Nuremberg after Mengele and the entire scientific fucking medical Nazi fucking like industry decided to start experimenting on fucking Jewish people and twins and all kinds of weird fucking things that they did and shit like that. It's a deep, dark road to go down. And, you can go it on the left and you can go down it on the right. But I think a lot of people, the best thing you can do is keep a good head on your shoulders and just realize that, these people are trying to, whether it's Jesse Smollett on the left, who is trying to start a race war against MAGA Trump hat people, or the, Christchurch shooting, who wants a race war, but, his saying was that they're going to go hardcore on gun control and then piss off people who are Second Amendment constitutionalists that aren't even the same kind of ideology as him. And he doesn't care. He wanted to get arrested so the state could take care of him as the ultimate FU to the taxpayer. And a lot of people who are like would just rather be taken out. But this guy knew what he was getting into. He planned it out for at least looks like for a couple of years when he was talking about that one girl got ran over, which was like the thing that like was what he said, But you have to take it with a grain of salt, because it does seem that there's huge sections of that manifesto that were just meant to troll people. So it's really hard to tell, Maybe one day we'll get an interview or find out what's going on. More of this, as more of this stuff gets out, But it really does kind of seem like the whole blowing it out of proportion and making it into like I've seen the day after it happened, there was like CBC here in Canada. Like I go to Google news, right, as a joke every now and then to see what the mainstream media is trying to push, and almost the entire fucking thing with all the different categories they have was all about the fucking shooter, pretty much. And then it was or reactions to the shooter, or how this in our culture and society we have to go about changing this incel uprising of people that are automatically becoming violent and out of no reason whatsoever. Nothing to do with our horrible fucking immigration policies. Nothing to do with our horrible Orwellian censorship of their viewpoints so that they can't say anything. Let's just completely ignore the whole fucking JFK, when, what does it say, when peaceful negotiation or rhetoric is abandoned, it makes violence, like pretty much probable or uncertainty. I'm definitely paraphrasing that and murdering that quote off, but it's the same kind of theory, really. It's like, if you don't, like they say, it's like the best way to shine light on darkness is to put that, like, the light of truth on there, to see what they have to say, see what they believe, and if it's crazy and if it makes absolutely no sense, then most regular normal people are gonna be like, well, that's batshit crazy. But if you have, like, the media being like, oh, there's this type of nationalist kind of ideology that we don't know where it comes from. Does it come from 4chan? Does it come from 8chan? Does it come from those Russian hackers? Well, we don't know yet, but we're gonna try. 2 years of the Russian investigation, the Mueller investigation probe, didn't really give us too much, but mainstream media, we will find those demons. We will fucking hunt those dragons down and grab them by the tail, even if they exist or not. But I mean, it's at the same point where they'll go after certain ideologies, but they won't go after others. They won't give two sides of the stories. They'll be like, we're all the peaceful moral arbiters of human decency and everything that is wonderful and righteous with humanity. And then at the same time, anyone that disagrees with them or has that doesn't believe that they're doing things in a honest or objective sort of way are now branded as the alt-right. Jordan Peterson, Nazi smelling socks of, I don't know. I can't even think of anything stupid there. It's just like, it's always like some sort of stupid thing where they gotta characterize fucking people who are like centrists or even like center left or classical liberals as like the new neo-Nazis. Like, Stefan Molyneux, he talks to white men about their problems. Oh my god. He's the next Hitler. And he doesn't even have a Hitler hairdo. Or hair, for that matter. My god! It's like, come on, people. Fucking, when they can't even categorize people of what their actual beliefs are and what their stances are, when they have no argument against it, then, it turns into this labeling. And that labeling creates a lot of alienation, whether it's online, whether or not it's in society or in real life, and then people get fucking extreme about shit, and they're saying, well, in that case, I'm not going to watch any fucking Hollywood movies. And that's kind of the point where I've gotten, like, I'm in kind of like a militarized kind of like mindset. Not in the kind of way where I want to go out and like, fucking take things down or do any violence or any of that crap. But no, I'm at the point now where I know Hollywood, pretty much everything they say is total bullshit and it's going to be against Trump or against traditional family fucking values anyways. And I'm the person that didn't even give a shit. I like going to these movies, seeing these little space things and like, okay, well, woman's got power. Okay, great. It's this fucking alternate universe. She's got fucking, like superhero powers. It's like, okay, I can go with that. I can do the suspension of disbelief for that shit. But when you put this whole like, oh, patriarchy and feminism and it's her time and oh my god, all this crap with it, then it turns me off. I do not. I'm at the point now where I can't even like watch a movie, and if I see someone in there, I all I see is their Twitter quotes, and it just fucking throws me off. I'm just like, you know what? Fuck Hollywood. Fuck, I don't even want to watch these movies. It's like art nowadays, it's all remakes of shit that was fucking popular or maybe not even popular fucking in the 80s. And they're just coming out with like new versions of it because they're fucking so retarded they can't think of anything fucking original themselves. That's what pisses me off about a lot of it. And they propagate it. They propagate this hate. They turn it. There's no people in the media being like, okay, we need to actually like seriously address this issue with immigration and whatnot. If this is what the cause of this is why this guy was so angered and so pissed off that he decided that he was going to like not only just ruin everyone else's lives that he fucking killed, but his own life and his own future. Like why is he going? Why are they doing it? And if you look at Islam, it's a religious ideology. If you look at the crazy Dylan Roof or this guy, you know, I know shouldn't be saying fucking names and stuff like that because it just kind of adds to the problem itself, but I'm not the one getting millions and millions of dollars, you know, taxpayer money to promote what the mainstream narrative is. You know, I just wish that they would at least kind of give the reasons why, and also like don't condone, like say that it was like he was justified by any means in doing what he had to do. But I mean, at the same time, these are the same mainstream media outlets that have fucking defended ISIS, especially recently, like a week or two fucking ago, about how wonderful ISIS is for fighting by following their ideology, and how these people are just soldiers. They're not out there for any personal harmful opinion. And if you actually look at the manifesto, the guy has no problem with people in different countries if they stay in their own countries. It's when they come in, you know, and it becomes that whole immigration thing. And if it's not done properly, like, you know, if you get a government that screws up a lot of the immigration problems are fucking due because the government did not take into consideration the, you know, the supply for demand in the workforce and the supply of workers that are there of either their own country or of people you're bringing in to make up for it. And usually if you do it in a very small, I mean, like, look at UK, for example. They brought like millions of fucking Pakistanis and Indians in over the years, you know, but it never really became an issue until all of a sudden they got more of a hold. They started doing the Muslim grooming gangs and stuff like that. Like, we don't see that here. There's no neo-Nazi fucking training grounds in school. No, it's all about cultural Marxist and colonization and patriarchy and victimology and all these little pyramids of, oh, because you're born with this skin color or you identify with this group, then, oh, you're more important than this group down here or whatnot. You know, it makes absolutely no fucking sense. And these people are the ones that are pushing the fucking extremism. They're breeding it by saying, well, we fucked up, but we're not going to admit it. And there's people that are pissed off about it. Well, what really? Whoa, wow. Historically? Oh, that's we've never had cases of where we've brung in a bunch of people all at once at one time, you know. And the sad thing is, like, the whole, like, argument behind what he's doing, it doesn't even really make any sense because, like, New Zealand, yeah, it's a small island, you know, comparatively to a lot of other land masses and stuff, but they've always been very multicultural, and they've usually had no problems with stuff. In fact, I think the biggest problems that they had in the past, 7 or 8 years was a fucking earthquake. You know what I mean? Seriously, like, you know, like it blows my mind. And once again, I've talked on for over an hour, so again, anyone who's listened to my rantings for this long, thank you very much. I appreciate it. And yeah, I mean, it's just craziness, man. Like, I get pissed off when I see, you know, fucking a bunch of kids getting, you know, run over by a fucking jihadi, and I get fucking just as pissed off when I see, you know, some guy that goes into a fucking mosque and kills about, you know, 50 people or whatnot, or probably more at this point, you know. And if you look at the video, the guy, Ben, like, Jesus, it was like he was, it was almost like a Grand Theft Auto freaking, you know, it was like, oh my god. And then, you know, instead of getting busted, I didn't see that part there. Obviously Facebook caught on, I think, which is probably what my estimate would be, and shut the feed once they got a lot of popularity. But this guy had a group of people that apparently knew what was going on. There's other people that are being arrested and stuff like that, so I'm gonna have to wait and see what really kind of develops from this whole situation, because it just happened so recently, and all that jazz. But yeah, I'll definitely have to say that, you know, we got to stop any way we can from... Obviously, the mainstream media is the enemy of the people. It's sad to say, because, you know, the way that they're portraying this stuff is just ridiculous. And the way they're... Like, I saw a CBC thing where they're trying to get Max Bernier to fucking disavow the fucking Christchurch shooting here in Canada. Guy from the People's Party of Canada. All because he wants, fucking immigration in the same levels as what we had, 3-4 years fucking ago? Like, that's the only real difference. Like, if you look at his like, policy, what he wants to do, there's, like, nothing really racist in it whatsoever, or and then we got the media here in Canada trying to make him the enemy because they're terrified. They're terrified of. They have their three little main controlled fucking parties. They have their conservatives that don't have any principles whatsoever, that'll fucking sell out their fucking mother for subsidy, not subsidies, but they'll sell out their mother for whatever they can for privatization and stuff like that. And for certain degrees, I do believe that it's good to have. But there's the same people that bailed out, like fucking CMCH. I think about it's like Canadian Mortgage and Housing. It's like what we have here for Canada for like the housing economy and stuff like that, and for that whole industry and for the housing bubble. And so he put $75 billion in there to bail that out, and also bailed out GM and then sold the shares for like pennies on the dollar. There's so many different like conflicts of interest that like Harper did as a leader. Like he was very authoritarian, and that's the reason why I'll never vote for the Conservatives here in Canada, because Andrew Scheer, he's going on a platform now where he's looked more at the demographics of what people like. He's playing it not on principles or on conservative values. He's playing it on, or even free market values for that matter, because he's all for the fucking supply management communist fucking system that we have here in Canada for our dairy, which makes it so that people that want to get into fucking farming can't because it's too damn expensive, because they got these bullshit heightened quotas on their fucking dairy cows and stuff like that. And they also make it so that people that do have a decent sized farm that wants to produce a little bit more milk, make a little bit extra money on the side, are like, they're forced to waste the milk. They have to dump it out. It's such a wasteful system for something that is supposed to be so wonderful for the Canadian farmers, and so like revolutionary for the dairy capital of Canada and stuff, or Canadian dairy industry. It is insane. It is. And the Conservatives, they just don't care. He said that he wants to scrap the carbon tax, Andrew Scheer, and said that, I think at one point, that he wants to either get out or renegotiate the migrant compact we've signed onto. And I just don't believe him, because he doesn't have any principles. I mean, yeah, I like the fact that he's like making fun of Trudeau and like kind of in a way for the SNC Lavalin like scandal, and just kind of like the fact that Prime Minister Soy Socks is a total softy pretty much, and won't answer a single question, and is completely corrupt with all these different I mean, we have like, this is what pisses me off, is that we had like the entire nation of Canada overall, when we voted Harper out as Prime Minister, we were sick of all of the ethics violations, we were sick of all the corruption, we were sick of all the backroom dealings, we were sick of all the lack of transparency. And so they vote in Trudeau. And he does the exact same fucking thing. In fact, does it in such a worst kind of way where a lot of people who are sensible are starting to be like, shit, why did they ever vote out fucking Harper in the first place, Because, damn, this guy's giving money out like it's candy. And I think that's the reason why the globalists want Trudeau in there. They want Trudeau to spend as much money as he can on globalist projects, so that it puts us further and further and further into debt, and so that the only way for Canada to pay out the debt that we have, the serviceable debt and the debt overall, is to practically go under globalist banker kind of protection by not having money, by having that cashless society, or so they can practically give everyone a digital living wage that costs really nothing to the country, because they're going to be using like their currency in a kind of different way, so that it's not based on the principle that we have, because there's a certain amount of money that's supposed to be kept in the bank, and with fractional reserve lending, it practically doesn't even really matter anymore anyways, because they just take that like same $100 that you've invested in and lend it out a bunch of times, so that there's more value, they say, in the economy than there actually is. But when you can print it out, you can just practically, as long as you're kissing ass to the credit rating agencies, then, you can go about doing what you want. And it gives it a lot more control over currency, because without physical currency, every transaction, everything that you do is tracked, traceable, or able to be manipulated by some power that doesn't like what you have to say or whatnot. And that's definitely a slippery slope down that Orwellian road. And we have definitely slipped in some pretty icy patches in the past little while when you're considering about what's going on with big tech, the fact that your cell phone practically records and spies on you. There's no other word for it. Your phone spies on you no matter what phone you have, pretty much. No matter what device, it doesn't matter. Like, no matter how many times you try to take off those little privacy control things, there's, for the phone to even work properly, it has, I think at least 10 to 14 times an hour where it's transmitting your data, where you are in your location and what you're doing on your phone to the wonderful cloud that has never had any problems and has never been hacked before. Well, I guess, what was it? The fappening. I guess that never happened. Nope, because the cloud is 100% trustworthy. Yeah. It's about as trustworthy as fucking Trudeau with a $1,000 bill. It's not going to be... You leave the room, you go to the bathroom, it's not going to be there when you get back. But, that's a bad joke. But, it's just kind of, I just gotten to the point where now I'm just so sick of all this crap. I don't even watch television the last couple days, because I'm just what, normally I usually sit there for, about an hour or two to see what the usual brain fucking washing CTV or CBC or global news outlook on things is, because they never give you the truth or an objective viewpoint or different arguments or legitimate arguments. No, it's just more what our leader is doing is great. Anyone who does not like what our leader is doing is a Nazi. Yes, they are bad. We must destroy them. We must censor them. We must not let them have any say whatsoever. We cannot sway. We cannot have them talking to other people. Nope. They must be social justice warrior, cultural Marxists. They must know the identity politics of our wonderful industrial schools. Yes, they will be indoctrinated. It's pretty much what it comes down to. That's the whole fucking bullshit of the mainstream media right there. But anyways, I'm going on for an hour and 11 minutes now, so I'm just gonna leave it at that. Because I don't think anyone's gonna watch it past unless there's maybe a couple people on the internet that are amazingly in hey, if you guys are still listening to me at this point, right on. Because I don't really expect anybody to actually listen to these. I'm just some dude in fucking a conservative writing in Canada. He's watching it all go to shit. So anyone there who's at least laughing along or having a beer with me, kudos, man. Or woman. Alright, well, have a good one. Peace.